Hi guys, so in this video I'm going to show how I took two soda cans and a 3D printer and turned them into some industrial terrain for your Warhammer 40k, necrmunda, gaslands and all those other kind of tabletop gaming games basically. So yeah, I had to go doing the hairspray technique again, and yeah, I think it came out better this time. So okay, let's get straight onto it. Clear that table. So I was recently sent a 3D printer by Anycubic, and this is their latest model to come out, and I believe it only came out last month, and this is the Vyper. So it's a lot different to the 3D printer that I've currently got, as this one uses a PLA filament as opposed to the sort of like liquidy resin one the other one uses. Obviously again guys, I'm no expert here with 3D printers, so obviously I'm just going by what I sort of know or I've learned. Obviously if you want to see more sort of in-depth 3D printing sort of reviews, yeah, go and check them out on YouTube. But yeah, so the company sent me this one for free, which was awesome of them. And the thing I like about this one is obviously it doesn't take much to set up, as you'll soon see, but obviously this one's a much larger size than the Anycubic one, so I can definitely print out some much bigger pieces. Yeah, so it's pretty much came sort of together. There's only a few bits I had to sort of slot in, and yeah, there's only a few. I think it's about six screws I did, as well as obviously all these little connectors. They all just needed sort of like plugging in, but again that was self-explanatory. But obviously there was the guide to come with it. But yeah, plugging a few of these in. So I think about 6, maybe 8 screws to sort of to hold the whole thing together, and then I was pretty much up and running straight away. It comes with a nice little screen, again just gets screwed on to the side, and then a few little clips to clip that in. So as I say, definitely nice and easy for someone like me to put together, so yeah, you'd be able to do it too. So this one uses a roll of PLA filament. As I say, I'm new to all this 3D printing, but this was quite easy to put together and sort of like attach everything. So they also sent me 3 spools of this, which is pretty awesome, so I can definitely make quite a lot of bits and pieces. And this printer also self-levels, which again is a really handy little thing for it to do. So there's no real messing about, you just push a couple of buttons and then watch it go. And so the other fun thing about this thing is watching it move around. Obviously I speeded this footage up a little bit, but it does actually move pretty fast. So before printing off the files that I actually needed, I thought I'd have a go at doing the test print that comes with this machine. And the test print here is a little owl, which I haven't actually given to one of my kids because they like it. Well, I actually made 2 of these owls because 2 of them wanted an owl. But yeah, again, so this footage is sort of speeded up. I can't actually remember how long it took to make the owl, but it wasn't too bad. And to say the quality of this, yeah, I am very impressed with. I will leave a link in the description guys to where this printer can be bought. And yeah, there we go, say first print done, nice and simple. And I think the quality of this has come out really well. I mean obviously if you look close enough you can just about see some sort of like the lines as it was built up. But you run your finger over it and it's yeah, lovely and smooth. So once painted, I don't think you'd notice any of these lines at all. So yeah, a great first test print, and now I can get on with printing the bits and pieces that I actually need to make up the industrial terrain. So I found these parts on Thingiverse, and I think I'm going to be having a good old look around for some sort of more bits and pieces to do with obviously the sort of like industrial terrain that I've been building, as well as lots and lots of sort of like D&D kind of buildings and, well, just general bits and pieces really. So something I really like about this printer over the resin printer, and that is obviously the pieces come off really easy, because once this bed cools down the bits just pop off, although it has actually got a tray on it that you can pull off and obviously flexes, so yeah, bits will come off nice and easy. And also there's no cleaning either. Once these bits come off they're good to go and use, well, however you want. You don't have to wash them and clean them and all that kind of stuff. They yeah, good to go. So obviously this was a little bit tight to get it around the Coke can. I'm not sure if I messed about with the settings or something came out a little bit wrong, and I'm sure this should have really have sort of like just gone over as is. But all it was a case of just clipping the bottom, and that obviously gave me a little bit of flex to yeah, to get the Coke can, or Pepsi can in this case, into it. So quite a nice little simple build this. Obviously there's only a few little parts to sort of to have together. and then it is just a case of really gluing them in their spots. So it's going to be really good using the 3D printer alongside doing some sort of scratch building, because if there are any parts that I can't quite sort of make or cut up or use from just sort of like rubbish, then yeah, I can just print off the odd little bit here and there. Especially as obviously in the case of this one, obviously these front ends need covering up, and yeah, you can just sort of print off little hatches, which is kind of perfect. So yeah, and little ladders as well, which is pretty cool. So yeah, I'm definitely going to be using the 3D printer more in my sort of like scratch building projects, as well as possibly any other kind of projects really. I'm not sure if cement glue can be used with this type of plastic or not. I'm guessing you guys can probably let me know that. But obviously in this case anyway, as I'm gluing it to metal, that's kind of why I am now using the super glue, which again obviously nice and quick and easy to use. And there we go, say something simple, but yeah, I think it looks pretty cool. So just a case of now getting on to the fun bit of some painting. So starting off by obviously priming it. I still haven't got any brown primer yet, so I'm just going to use the white that I've got, and then basically I'm just going to go over this, doing the same sort of thing I like to do, and that is obviously put the rust effect on first. So this case I'm just going to paint the whole thing in a brown, and obviously this is the bit I kind of do prefer, because I don't need to be too neat or too precise with this. It is just a case of getting the colour on there. As I say, I will be getting some brown primer once my white primer runs out, but I think I kind of bought a pack of 6 cans because it worked out about £3 each, so yeah, it's worth getting loads of the white primer. And again, I'm sticking now with the baking soda to give the thickness in the, or the texture for the rust, rather than the grout. As I say, the last time I used it, the grout does seem a bit too thick and clumpy sometimes, whereas the baking soda is definitely a better option just for making that sort of textured rust, because you get thicker bits and obviously some thin bits, which is pretty cool. So yeah, just dabbing this on all over. Again, no real pattern to this. I do like my my industrial terrain to be rather rusty, because obviously it's nice to sort of think that it's been there for years and years and years. Bit of neglect, and yeah, it's definitely seen better days. Plus I think it just fits in better, especially with the necrmunda sort of style stuff, having that sort of aged rusty old bucket look. So this time I'm going to try and seal obviously the rust in, because last time when I rubbed it off, basically everything came off. So I'm going to use the sort of matte varnish, and hopefully a good layer of that on there will keep it sort of secure. Although it has left these white weird patches, and I'm not too sure why, but this is the first time I've really sort of used the varnish, so we'll see. So yeah, I've also obviously sprayed it now with the hairspray and given that plenty of time to dry. And now I'm just going to go over the colour I want to use, and in this case I'm going to go with this sort of blue. Obviously paint things whatever colour you really want, I guess. But yeah, the last one did green, so I thought I'd go doing blue this time. But when it dried, it did sort of crack, and I'm not too sure if that's because of the hairspray, the paint, or even the matte varnish. I'm not too sure. But either way, I suppose it adds another sort of like textured effect to it. So yeah, I tried using the brush at first, and I was really rubbing and rubbing and rubbing. And it did start taking some of the blue off, but it just seemed to take forever. So I scrapped the idea of using the brush and went back to using like the old Brillo pad thing, just so I think this is a bit rougher. So yeah, giving it a good old rub with this. But again, it still seemed to take a long time to get the paint off. I'm not sure, because I did actually do 2 coats of paint this time, just because it started cracking, and I thought I'd do another coat, but the second coat kind of cracked as much as the first coat. But there you go. So yeah, it's just a case of keep rubbing. I think if anything, it probably is better that only bits come off at a time, just so then you don't rub off too much in one go. And I think using the matte varnish certainly did help keep the rusty brown sort of paint still on there. And there was a few areas on the edges where the paint sort of came off fully and it went back to the metal tin underneath. But again, that's fine, because obviously after I've done all of this, I am going to be doing a light dry brushing with silver anyway. But yeah, so this one definitely come out a lot better than before. Again, I'm not sure if that's because of using the matte varnish or doing the thicker coat of paint. Because if you did see last week's video, the paint I used, I actually put some thinner in it. And I think that possibly thinned it down just a tad too much. So as you can see, it's a bit of a messy old job this, because obviously you're basically diluting the paint with the water, because obviously it's a water-based paint. so it is kind of like just coming off everywhere, and that does kind of mean it's going to come off on your fingers and your hands. So I've done a good job though. I still haven't got my desk messy, which is pretty good, so I am pleased with that. And yeah, it just gets going around all over, and then once that's all sort of done, I'll come to this, and then I've wanted to add a bit more sort of a darker pigment of brown, but obviously this brown I used wasn't as dark as I was hoping it was. It looked darker on the on the tin, so I do have to get a few more paints soon, I think, just because obviously, as you guys kind of know, I do like making things rusty looking, just because I think it hides a lot of imperfections with painting. You don't have to be a great painter to do rust. Yeah, the messier the better sometimes. So I'll put a bit of this on, and then I'm going to go to my my other little thing that I like to use, and that is the Rust Wash by Vallejo. Just because again, this gives everything a real sort of good grungy looking sort of effect, and obviously because it is a wash, it is very watery, so it just kind of like drips and sort of, yeah, and goes down in places. And yeah, I think it looks really good. Obviously I put it on quite sort of thick and generous, but then I will go over like with a cloth or even my finger, just to rub a few areas sort of off, just so it isn't too sort of in your face there. But yeah, again, I just love the effect that sort of that gives it, especially when it gets onto the paint that you use. In this case, the blue, it just gives the blue a start of a hint of the fact that it is starting to sort of going to go rusty colour, and then bubble and reveal the rust below. So yeah, the last thing to do, as I said earlier, was basically do a bit of dry brushing with some silver. This is great because obviously it just catches all the edges. Well, it does when you do a fine bit of it. So yeah, so make sure there is only a little bit of silver on there. So yeah, it catches all the edges, and it just brings the whole thing back to looking like it was sort of made out of metal. And yeah, makes your sort of plasticky looking bits metally, which is really cool. So yeah, really pleased with this one. It's a nice and simple little project, and it's fun to actually use something from 3D printed. So again, thanks again Anycubic for sending me the 3D printer. Much appreciated, and it's something I definitely am going to be using a lot more of in the future, just because it is a lot easier to use than the other printer, and let's say especially without having to do any cleaning up afterwards is pretty cool. So there we go guys, that is the end. Yeah, I'm pleased with the result. The rust on this definitely looks better than the rust I did last time, and yeah, I'm definitely going to be making some more of this sort of terrain sort of stuff. Basically I want to try and get into the gaslands gaming. I've been reading up the rules on that. Seems like a nice simple little thing, and I like the idea of getting some Matchbox cars and basically turning them into like Mad Max stuff. A big thank you as always to my patrons for helping support the channel, as it really does mean I can continue to keep buying more bits and pieces, especially as I say I am running out of paints now. So yes, I can keep making these videos. So cheers again guys. If you have enjoyed the video, hit that thumbs up guys, and leave some comments down below. Let me know what you thought of this and what you might want to see me make in the future. And if you're new, hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell. Okay guys, that's it. Bye for now.